We're good, we're good. Can you folks hear me? I don't know if it's working. Is it working? Good to go? I love that. Okay, so culture, conversations, content, context. I think it is fair to say that there are a number of creators, publishers, influencers who really deal in the currency of authenticity, which I know all of us deal in. That's how we traffic, the currency of authenticity. But today's conversation is about measurement and how do we rationalize that? And I think Sharon really kicked it off well. And for me, it's also, and I can't wait because I know Crystal's got like she was ready with gems, baby.
Nice.
For me, as a woman of color, I always want to support other entities that are owned of and by us, people of color. And yet so many times these entities can be under-resourced and undervalued, and they're not given the same chances that the bigger guys are given. And so then our clients come back to us and say, well, did they measure up? What were the metrics? And today we're going to talk about how we not only help ourselves, but help them and really help our community in getting through that pathway. So the narrative today, we're going to start with how do we set up the measurable goals? Then we're going to talk a little bit about distribution and those partners. And again, we got Jim's coming. And then finally, metrics. And I love that Aziz is here because he really is at the end of that. That is his accountability. What are some of the metrics he puts in place? So before we go anywhere, though, these folks are amazing. I'm going to let each of them take 2 minutes and just tell you about themselves and who they are if you don't know already. Kick it off, boss.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron Walton. I am the CEO and founder of Walton Isaacson, which is an agency that is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. So I know. It went by fast. I know. But this agency's started, quite frankly, in large part, to Marissa's point, because I really wanted to start to see people like myself, people that were diverse, people that had, and by the way, diversity for me was not just about ethnicity.
That's right.
It was about
gender.
Identity. It was about identity. It was about experience. I wanted to bring people with diverse backgrounds together, not just because I thought it would be a nice to do thing, but because I knew that if I did that the right way, I would drive innovation.
That's right. And revenue.
And ultimately, driving innovation and creativity is what I believe clients want. I believe what people in our industry want to achieve. And there have been barriers in large part because people didn't have those opportunities. So that's kind of, a little bit about, that's more about why I did it as opposed to who I am, but so much of who I am is about my why. There's an amazing German philosopher named Hegel who started and came up with something. He was a 19th century German philosopher who came up with something called the dialectic method as a way to explain how innovation and change happens. And basically what he said was every idea has an equal and opposite idea. And when the two ideas collide, they create a new one that consists of the best of the two. And to me, that's what bringing diverse people together, and that's what our agency was really founded on. And so, that's why we get to celebrate 20 years.
I love that recipe, and I love what it is baked and put out with you. So that's amazing. Girl, tell us a little bit about the fabulousness. Go ahead. Go ahead, Hotlanta. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Foote, founder of Digital Culture Group, representing Atlanta in the house. Hey. That was a great little chorus.
Hotlanta.
And
I'm excited. I'm not from Atlanta.
Digital Culture Group was really built to re-engineer the industry, the antiquated infrastructure that we're utilizing right now to identify diverse audiences. And so we built Digital Culture Group because we saw that white space, that key opportunity to make sure that brands and agencies were effectively and successfully connecting with all audiences, not just general market, not just growth, not just multicultural, but all audiences, and doing it smart and doing it so they can get an ROI. Because at the end of the day, like Sharon said earlier, it's all about the dividends, baby.
All right.
All about the dividends. I'm Aziz Rahimtullah. I'm the CEO founder of Sabio, and I spent years, about 25 years in the ad space, working at places like Fox, NBC, AT&T, and Opera. And I never saw myself in that ecosystem. And so what I set out to do was to build a more diverse, inclusive media ecosystem. And how we're doing that is we have built our own DSP platform. We built analytics, which we're going to get into. And finally, we just launched our own channel called Creator Television, which is taking some of the most diverse talent on YouTube and bringing them and provide another opportunity to make sure we spread that diversity further, because you can't make something flourish unless you provide it water and give it nutrients to grow. And that's really our objective. That's our mission.
I love them. Not bad. I told you they're badass. They're badass people. I'm just hanging out. So we're going to go through 3 phases in this conversation. We're going to start with the accountability, the objectives we want to hit. We're going to get into how it gets distributed and how we partner with folks to then get it out in a measurable way. And finally, the metrics. You know, in the end, really, what are those metrics? What are the best metrics to use when we are doing that measuring? So, I said, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? But if a campaign doesn't deliver against client measurement, can it still be deemed successful? And so my first question, because these are some of the most iconic creative minds in the industry as well, how do you balance like having this free will and free-minded innovation with very strict client accountability? You have these deliverables. You must hit these numbers. And sometimes that feels restrictive, I think, in the creativity and in the innovation. And after decades, you are literally in my top 5 of people who know it and get it right. So I'm going to start with you, boss man. Yeah. How do you do that? How do you navigate 2 things? Your own sense of achieving the innovation and not being restricted, and also massaging clients so that they'll let you.
Yeah. Great question. Here's how we do it, and I'll give you some background. I started my career in research and analytics. And so I have this passion for it. I have this passion for what data can do to help tell a story. I love how it can help tell whether or not that story achieved a goal. And so everything that we do, whether it is an event, a new campaign, media, it starts with a strategic need that the client has asked us to solve.
Yes.
And we are very, very clear, and I think any agency that really wants to do the work and wants to succeed has to be very clear about what those objectives are at the very beginning. It's not just about creating beautiful art. We do that. That's part of the process. If I just wanted to create beautiful art, I'd open a museum and put it up and be done. But the reality is, I'm creating art that will help sell something, that will help change someone's perception about a brand or about an idea. And so for us, I do believe that even if we do a campaign and it does not achieve what it's supposed to achieve, it doesn't mean it was a bad campaign. It just meant, well, it didn't achieve that. What can we learn from it to change so that the next time we can achieve that goal? So I'm actually quite excited about setting up those goals because I want to be able to help sell something. I've never thought about doing anything other than being in this industry. And
Bewitched.
Bewitched. That was my.
Who remembers Bewitched? Does anybody remember Bewitched?
I wanted to be Darren Stevens, and I really do believe that if we are really clear about it, and by the way, there are some assumptions that also have to happen. It's not just about setting up those goals. It's also about making sure that any barriers have been removed so that we're clear about, well, wait a minute. Did we get the right budget? Did we have the right research? Did we have access to all of the tools that are required to help us achieve the goal? There's, one of our clients is Lexus, and we've been working with them now for 19 years. And one of the things that I've learned from them is this concept called Kaizen, which is constant improvement. And we take that very seriously at the agency, where we look at what we're supposed to be doing. After we've done it, we look at, even if it was incredibly successful, we did the Black Panther campaign for Lexus. And it broke records. But after that project was over, we sat down and said, okay, what can we do to make it better the next time? And so there wasn't a negative thing around it. And to your point, yes, there are measurements, there are tools. It is important for all of us to make sure that we are using those tools to help our clients achieve what they want to achieve. But we also clients have to be realistic, and part of our job is making sure that we're holding clients accountable to make sure that they are doing what is required to achieve that goal.
Yeah, that they're not holding their agency partners or other partners to a higher standard.
Yeah.
That the expectation isn't set and elevated, and then they don't meet the same expectation or elevated standard. I think that's brilliant, and that then gives you the breathing room to be as creative and as innovative. And that art, that award-winning art that you put out happens.
And by the way, just because you have goals doesn't mean you can't be creative. I would actually say having goals forces you to think more creatively and how you're going to achieve that.
How about that?
And so I don't look at that as a restriction. I look at that almost as a liberation to think in an innovative way to get to the promise.
I love all of that. I love all of that. Okay, so on this little journey here with us for a few minutes today, we've talked about this innovative thinking and the marriage of creativity and yet being accountable to client deliverables. So now we've created this incredible art and conversation. Somebody's got to see it. And so when we push it out, and we've talked about this, and I love what you wrote and what you sent. I saw that. And it was, both of us had leaned into the fact that as agency partners of color, we also want to support resources of color, vendors of color, people like Aziz who step up and in and say, I am of and from this community which I serve. But what happens historically is, I will say, and I'm not trying to make any enemies, is stir the pot maybe a little. Maybe a little.
We know you, Marissa. Stir the pot a little bit.
Maybe a little kiki. But you speak with clients who say, oh, we absolutely want to support these vendors. Okay, well, you paid this vendor over here $1, $5. Are you going to pay the vendor I've now brought to bear what they're worth? Well, I said, what I had said was, and that's what it becomes. And so they're just, it breaks my heart when they're under-resourced and undervalued, yet held sometimes to even a higher standard of accountability when we're pushing things out. And so we get to this next part of our conversation about the distribution and how it comes to light. Chris, girl, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to watch me lean back. She is ready to go, and you're about to get some gems.
Marissa and I just came from their panel, where she got a preview, I was going to say, but let's look at the advertising industry as a whole, right? And let's look at past situations, because history, if we don't learn from it, it will not repeat itself, but we have not learned from our history of advertising. So in the past, advertising was really built with TV screens, right? It started with TV, and it became so easy for reporting and measurement to make sure that, the brand saw that they reached this audience, and this audience was static. They had one screen. Adults 18 to 34, adults 25 to 54. Easy, delivered, the end, right? But let's look at today's audiences. How many of you all have 5 or more screens at home? Everybody, exactly. And media consumption is so fragmented, right? So now with these emerging audiences, these new audiences, growth audiences, and buying power of diverse audiences, totally different. So now what has happened is the speed of culture has outpaced the ad tech industry. So we're still, not us, but other vendors, other properties are still buying on these broad-based demos, thinking, okay, we can do this. Or now, it's gotten even worse. They're saying, we're going to expand on race ethnicity. We're going to just reach all Black people, all Latino people, because all y'all watch the same thing. And it's like, wait a minute, no, we don't. So we went from broad-based age demos to now broad-based race ethnicity and putting everyone in the same bucket, because there have not been any tools developed until our audience resonance index tool by Digital Culture Group to tell the brand, based on cultural relevance, based on audience resonance, how we're going to be reaching that audience. My brands in the room know, agency people in the room know, and ad tech in the room know that at the end of the day, there has been so much guesswork as to how to find this audience that we are wasting 60% to 80% of your budget not knowing how to find them. And then you'll hear this as a brand and agency, oh, give us 2 weeks to optimize. We'll find the audience. Give us a month to optimize, right? Exactly, right? Exactly. So brands don't have time to optimize. They have an ROI. And as a woman-owned and the only Black-owned ad tech company in the country, we're not given the same grace. We don't have that time to optimize. So we saw the overlooked opportunity to make sure that we're re-engineering, right, that platform to make sure that we are reaching these audiences. And here's the rationale why. We have predictive analytics as well, live transaction data, competitor intel too. So if you're not going to use it for your campaigns, you're going to lose, right? You're going to still waste money and say, oh, I want to reach Gen Z. Why do you want to reach Gen Z? They have no money. Their parents have money, Gen X millennials, but not Gen Z. So yes, they're aspirational, and one day they will become your consumer, but not right now. So why are you, as a luxury brand, showing them an ad when you are trying to drive ROI? Then you blame the agency and ad tech providers because they did not hit that overall campaign goal that you wanted to hit. And then Digital Culture Group, if we were part of that equation, which we do not allow ourselves to be part of, we wouldn't get a second chance, right? So we have to be on our best performance for every campaign, and that's why Ari is the first to market AI-powered platform to help brands and agencies with that. That's it.
And see what I tell you, I don't lie. I do a lot of things. I might stir the pot, but I don't lie. I'm filled with truth.
Stir the
Can I
pot.
just say something real quick, too?
Yes, my love.
Because we also have data scientists in the building, right? And they are doing a great job at telling these brands, reach these audiences, right? That makes sense to drive the needle, right? But at the end of the day, research does not always equal ROI if the infrastructure is antiquated. That's like putting, let's say, you have a horse and buggy and putting a Formula One engine in it. Where's it going? Nowhere. It's going to be the same thing going slow. So let's make sure that we're looking at the research, but we also have tech to back it up with. That's it.
I love it.
I'm done now. For real.
Don't be done. We got a few more minutes. I mean,
keep going,
although I
keep
am
going.
racing toward that rosé, but I've managed myself. I just said no rosé until the end of this panel. But we are all preaching up here, and everybody's loving it. You guys loving it? Yes. All right. So 3 parts to this narration and conversation. We start with how are we going to get the innovation, the messaging, the measurement, setting up our goals? Next, how are we pushing out? And the accountability, setting ourselves up for success. Okay, now we're here. And Aziz, you are at the end of that. You've done, and you teed this up beautifully, thank you. You've had this incredible campaign. You've delivered, you think, and then you get hit with walls in terms of, well, is this really a success? Well, this was the goal, but how are you measuring it? What are the metrics you're using? Is it an awareness? Is it a cost per click through? Yeah. What are we using to measure it, and why? And why is that goal line always changing for you? And I think I'm saying you're nodding, so I'm saying all the wrong things. So when this happens, how do you burn me once, shame on me, or shame on you? Sorry, burn me twice, shame on me. Where are you finding opportunity to build in latitude and flexibility so that you can bob and weave when you see them coming and the conversations you have?
So I think, and what Chris was saying is right on in terms of the funding, the lack of ad tech in the space, and obviously Aaron has been a leader in this space for years. And what we realized as a company, what I realized as a company, having worked at all these other companies, was the fact that the way we imagine this, Nielsen has been around since the 60s.
That's right.
Nielsen still has a 40,000 panel. Think about that. This is a company that started in the 60s when roughly 80% to 90% of the US population was one color.
That's right.
Yep.
One color.
That's right.
And they're still around doing the same thing.
That's right.
So what we set out to do, and this goes back to where we also like working with other vendors and other publishers. In fact, we work with Toyota, and we've been working now Toyota for 3 years, And Toyota is one of the smartest, as Aaron knows, as well as I do. They're a really smart company that is driven by understanding on an analytics basis. Sure, they use this on media separately, and separately, they're actually using our analytics products to better understand, are they reaching those audiences effectively? Because of Toyota, we actually integrated with some of the largest number of Asian audience publishers. They requested those publishers do it. And now we're going to next phase, and Aaron, I would love for your help on this, is to go back and now connect with all the African American and Black publishers, as we're doing with the Hispanics. And the reason we want to do this is because then we could help these publishers and these groups understand the situation a little better. The challenge that I think a lot of, Chris, I'm sure you and Aaron, I know we're on the same boat, is you don't get told anything. You don't even get the opportunity to understand, how do I make that impact? How do I fine tune this impact? You just at the end get, hey, you know what? We decided we're not going to do that anymore. There's no, but why?
But why? You keep moving the goal line on me.
That's right.
You move the goal line on me, and so we've worked together.
Yeah.
You've gotten our budgets.
Yes.
We're happy with it.
Yes.
What are some solutions? Just because people want to learn. We want people
Sure.
to walk away with the gems. And what's one way when you know that Lucy's going to move the ball,
Yeah.
you don't end up on your back like Charlie Brown?
Well, we are now certified with the Trade Desk. We're certified DV360. We're certified with every major publisher partner. What I think I recommend highly is have a conversation with us as you're getting a client in the room and you're thinking about a client. We'll start helping you understand, okay, well, if you're going to run this campaign, tell us what kind of KPIs you might want to be looking for. And if we're okay and we're certified and the client certifies it, we'll put those tags in. And guess what? You're going to get some data before the client's getting data.
Right.
I actually think, and we work in the Lexus business. He's doing some of the Toyota business. But as a company, I think the reason they're so good, and they understand the power of the analytics and what that is, they treat most of the folks that they work with like partners. And there is a very different approach when you're working with a partner versus when you're working with some brands. Look at it like they're vendors, and you're just here to. But a true partner wants to grow the business. They want people around them to help them grow, and we're part of the same team. And by the way, it's not just our agency and the brand, it's also our agency and the other agencies around them that collectively understand our roles, what we want to do, and how we want to win. And so that makes a huge difference. And I think I'm glad you brought up Toyota as being one of the smart ones, because they do approach it very different. And by the way, partners also want you to make money. Right? A true partner
wants everybody
wants
to win.
you to win, because if in fact you are making money and not worrying about that, you're spending time on their business and not worrying about, oh my God, how am I going to... So for the brands out there that are watching or listening or taking notes, think about how you are treating the people that are there helping you achieve the goals that you want. You're bringing in this incredible resource that did not exist before, and a true partner would sit back and say, I've never thought about that before. Let's go out and try this and see how we can win.
Well, and I think it's also validation, right? Like, there's so much great, and by the way, in terms of media, let's be honest, it's always been Black media and Black leaders who have led diversity efforts across since, it started. I mean, I got my first starts because of female Black people at key parts of agencies that I got. And it wasn't anyone else who gave me a hand up. It was those people of diversity that looked at me. And for me, that was always a key. That's what a driving passion point is. That's why we got to build it before, because it can be proven. The challenge that a lot of brands face is the fact that they don't know, or they don't have the efforts or the time, and no one's pushing them to say, okay, you don't think it works? Here's a partner that can help you validate it. Let's try it. Let's take us against them, and then we'll call it out.
Yeah.
Try, why not try? And Crystal,
Yeah.
I want to amplify again, because I mean it, and I'm being a little, dropping the gems. But what you're doing is so incredibly unique, and I'm going to put you on Front Street for a little, and hopefully I don't overstep a boundary.
Not at all.
Not inexpensive.
Right.
I want to say that again.
Right.
This woman, I know what it costs to do and build what you have built. And I'm also going to say, I know of several folks who don't look and sound like us that cross the street, fall down, get up again, cross the street, and they get handed a check for $100 million.
Yeah.
Bob, weave, beg, steal, all of the things, and are excelling, excelling in what you're doing. Talk to us about that feeling, because you're in a safe space, and how we can support you, because in supporting you, to Erin's point, we're all supporting each other. I think it's important to highlight that.
Thank you, Marissa. It has to be that strong ecosystem. So I have clients with me who've invested in Digital Culture Group that allowed us to make better tech for them.
That's one.
So it's the brand, the agency, ad tech, and as well as our partnerships with publishers. It has to be a full, strong ecosystem in order to be successful in this industry. And we all have to help each other across the board, because if we don't, it's not going to work. I've received text messages like, hey, Crystal, RFP's coming out. This is what they're looking for, da-da-da. That's what makes us stronger, because other communities do that.
That's right.
And we have to start with our own as well, because at the end of the day, I know the industry is more diverse now, but because we haven't been in the industry for a long time, we don't know how to navigate the waters as thoroughly as they do, right? So we need to make sure that we are helping each other out. I don't care if we're at competitor companies, competitor brands, we all can build something to make really a stamp on this industry. I don't know if y'all saw a LinkedIn post, but it talked about the billion-dollar companies, and not one of them were minority-owned on there. And we are bringing the culture to mainstream. So it makes no sense how these companies who are non-minority owned are taking a lot of the culture that we're doing for mainstream and capitalizing on that, and we're not.
I saw, and I think, I could be wrong, I think the statistic was 100% non-Hispanic, white male, basically, but maybe female owned. Something like 90% BIPOC culture driven. So translating, we making money fo. We be making money fo.
Right.
We can't afford the R. We be making money fo. Almost over 80% culturally driven by,
Correct.
but no ownership and equity. And I just wanted to give you your props and your flowers, because I know what it took to get into that as a woman. So
Thank you.
we're going to wrap it up, because this is a graduate level. We went from how are we going to learn, what are these deliverables? How do we address them? Navigating client conversations, pushing them out in the right ways, and being a partner truly. And then at the end, even though that goal line is moving, still being able to cross it. And so any of these would be incredible. All of these together, a masterclass in excellence. So one, thank you.
Thank you.
Two, before we go, I just, I'm nosy like that. I'd love for each of you, just tell us one thing you want to crow about. What is something recently that you just are so proud of, and we all need to applaud you before we leave this stage?
Wow. It would probably not be anything that you would know. It's really more about some of the internal work that we're doing at the company. And for me, I have a new role as a CEO and not the president. We elevated one to be the president. And so he just celebrated 10 years with us. How he put up with me for 10 years, I'm not quite sure, but he did. But it's not so much the external. I mean, there are a lot of things that we, campaigns that we're working on with Ad Council around mental health and the impact that is having for communities, particular communities of color, and understanding the power of taking care of your mind and your brain is so critical. But the things that I'm most proud of is watching our staff flourish and seeing how what we're doing is really impacting their career, their life. And those aren't things that you normally broadcast or put out press releases about, but they are really critical to our culture and to making us feel good about going into the office every day.
There is incredible clarity of anyone who knows you that your legacy are the people you surround yourself with and that you have brought along with you. I could get emotional. I'm one of those people for 30 years, 10 years, 20 years in the agency. You are sublime and superior at that, and we all thank you for it. That is absolutely something to crow about. Thank you, Erin. Crow, baby, what you got?
Just real quick, Erin also is in the Advertising Hall of Fame, and
Yes,
that
he
is
is.
incredible. So thank you for
Thank
your
you.
contributions to the industry.
And that is over 20 years, and I mean, caw-caw.
I just want to,
you.
talk about that real quick. I'm really proud of really these opportunities to speak on panels like this by people who understand the narrative and who are pushing our industry forward when it comes to diversity, when it comes to us really owning the stage. Like you literally are owning this, Sharon. Where are you?
Yeah.
In the back.
So
there.
thank you
is.
so much for
Sharon,
this.
thank
Thank
you.
you. The queen. Thank you.
Queen.
And this is how we continue to put the message out there and how we continue to thrive and get new business as well. So I'm proud of that, what we are creating. And again, this is very recent. We didn't have this on the Crusette. We didn't have this off the Crusette 5 years ago, which is crazy to think about, right? Because we have some powerhouses in this industry, some in the audience right now on the panel. So I'm grateful for you all. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you, Marissa, for this phenomenal
Amazing.
opportunity to moderate our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, love. Thank you. Yay. And we're going to make sure, go back to the website, how to get to everybody, how to get in on all this tracking. Absolutely, because the queen here, she got it going on. Crow about something before we go.
I think it's our 10-year anniversary as a company.
Congrats.
We are now up to like 150 people. But I think echoing what Erin just said, what I think I'm definitely the most proud of is the fact that we have built a company that is majority diverse. Mm-hmm. We're not it is majority diverse. We have more women VPs than we have male VPs. We have more people of color in the company than we don't. And that, even including on our board. And we have representation on our board with diversity. And that, I think, is we are walking the walk. We are talking the talk, and we're doing what we're said what we're doing. And one last thing, we launched our channel to once again build a more diverse, inclusive media ecosystem where everyone can participate and their voices are heard. That's what we're about to do.
Hey.
That's what I love. Well, and Crystal was right. I'm just going to end on Sharon. You are
my dear.
phenomenal. You
thank
put
you.
this
Yes,
together.
thank you.
You get it going. You make it happen. You recognize all of us. You do this for us,
Yes.
not for yourself. And we love you for it.
Yes.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
I
you.
got to give a shout out to my amazing team on video, Savan on photography. We've got Florent, we've got Guillaume, we've got Enzo, we've got Amy, my event producer, my fixer over there, Benny. Anything you need in France or anywhere else in the world, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, wherever. Former basketball player, Ben is your man. Tamay, another one of my Atlanta posse, social media. Upstairs is Sharice, Danielle, Omar, my friend Karen who's running transportation, my best friend. She just likes being in the car all day. But I can't do this by myself. It really is about
It is that.
that ecosystem, that network, those relationships. And you got to treat people right.
That's right.
I know we all are hustling for the bag sometimes, but I'm not going to just take the bag from you for myself. We got to be able to share.
That's right.
A rising tide lifts all boats. So you got to treat people right. Because when you don't, trust me, it comes back to you. I can't thank our panelists enough. I know Mr. Aaron Walton has to run. We're going to take a quick photo. There is bubbly upstairs for all of you. But tomorrow, please make a point of coming to the State of the Union. I'm giving you the keys and the data on where we are with diversity, equity, and inclusion.
All
Thanks
right.
to IPG.